Eva was a beautiful bird that usually came to my window. Background story. My name is Maima. I am 23 years old, and I live alone after a betrayal and loveless life. Eva became my companion. Mr. John Hills and Mrs. Lily Hills were my parents. They were always on vacation around the world. You wouldn't blame them, they were retired. My mother retired with her husband just to have a good life. My father, Mr. John, owned a furniture shop where people worked for him, while my mother, Mrs. Lily, was a businesswoman who sold baby clothes but employed staff. I had two brothers, Wisdom, who was 26, and our oldest brother Raymond, 30. Raymond lived in the States with his white wife but didn't care about me. Wisdom was like a father to me because he was the only person who understood me. I was in my semi-final year at university. I was an outgoing person who saw friendship in every relationship and treated everyone as a friend until I was constantly betrayed by my damn friends. You might be wondering how I made Eva my best friend. Grab your popcorn, sit comfortably, and make sure your drink is beside you. I met Yvonne at the registrar's office on my first day at the university. Yvonne became my friend, and luckily, we studied the same course, computer science. Yvonne was the same age as me, but I noticed something about her. She lived a luxurious life and dealt in designer items. I wondered how a girl of that status could be my friend. We were not poor, just financially comfortable, what you would call average. Yvonne must have been a humble girl, I thought. We became friends and stayed in the same hostel, doing everything together as friends. I always shared my secrets with her, but she never shared hers with me, and I never cared. Yvonne later brought two other girls to join us, Priska and Pascaline. The two girls were the same age as us but were not in the same department. They studied linguistics. They were good friends who always visited us in our hostel. I knew these girls were not on my level, but they seemed accommodating. Sometimes I noticed that they mainly talked with Yvonne, but I never cared, she knew them better. One Friday afternoon, I came back from a lecture hungry. Remembering I had left some meat pie in my cupboard in the morning, I dashed into the room and consumed the meat pie and fell asleep afterwards. Waking up at 4 p.m., I heard a loud banging on my door. It was our neighbor, Martha, who was 2 years ahead of us. Martha sat me down and asked me the reason I was sent to school. I was surprised. She repeated the question, but I was still surprised. She told me that Yvonne and the other girls sold me out to one of their old men. How? They were into prostitution and had promised to bring an innocent girl. How did Martha get to know this? The old man who they have kept waiting came to their hostel to confront them and to hand me over to him, but unfortunately I went for lecture. I was shocked because they never showed any signs of it. No wonder Yvonne claimed sick earlier, and I was supposed to stay back and look after her as my friend, but I promised to buy her medication on my way home, but surprisingly she was not at the hostel when I came back. I never noticed that lifestyle in them, and I thought they were just born with silver spoons. I sat with my mouth wide open. I doubted Martha at first but decided to investigate. The next day, Saturday, we were all at home, and the girls visited us as usual. Pascaline was asking for our opinion on her story about her one-time boyfriend, Ifosa, who was 10 years older than her. He impregnated her while she was in secondary school and then left for his fiancée. Ifosa had met her when he came to their compound looking for Flatsi. Pascaline and her mother were living on the ground floor then. Pascaline directed him to Flatsi. She believed he was looking for Namdi, Amoka's brother, who lived in Flatsi. As Ifosa was leaving, he asked Pascaline for friendship. At first, she was reluctant but later accepted. Nobody knew about their relationship because she was underaged. Ifosa made out with her, and she became pregnant. She ran away from home to live with Ifosa, but he threw her out. She then lived with an old woman who took care of her until she gave birth and sold the child to the old woman, who had no children. After some months, Pascaline heard that Ephosa was getting married. She went to the wedding venue, disrupted the ceremony, and exposed Ephosa's deeds. Ephosa was arrested but later released. His fiancée dumped him for another man. Ephosa returned, begging Pascaline to get his son back after denying her and the child. I shouted at Pascaline, asking why she would sell her baby to a stranger. Yvonne looked at me with hate and screamed, "Why are you so stupid? You're not against Ephosa's evil but the baby's interest." I kept quiet for some time. The hostel was silent until I broke it by asking, "Is that the reason you guys started prostituting?" They all left the room one after the other without saying a word. I thought I had confronted them to change, but it was the beginning of my problems. My belongings started missing, and I stopped seeing them. They began avoiding me and even told my best friend Anthony that I was dating old men. They believed Anthony and I were dating. Anthony stopped talking to me, even when I tried to explain. He ignored me. But why would Anthony, who claimed to be just a friend, get angry over mere talk? Let him go. After all, we were just friends because he wanted to convert me to start attending his church. One Sunday, coming back from church, I met the girls leaving the hostel with their bags. I did not say a word to them. I got to the hostel and realized most of my clothes were gone. I was deeply infuriated but did not know where to find them. I waited for them at school on Monday. Immediately I saw Yvonne, I pounced on her. Due to my body stature, no one could imagine I had the strength to engage someone like chubby Yvonne in a fight. I beat her black and blue, and she cried all along. She could not lay a finger on me because she did not believe I could fight like a man. I will not say do not judge a book by its cover, rather do not judge people by their stature. A male student eventually pulled Yvonne from my hands because the fight started before the lecture. I left after the fight because I was not in the right frame of mind to receive the lecture. The story spread like wildfire. I did not know what awaited me. I was not afraid to stay in the hostel alone because my father was a retired general. Our oldest brother was in the US Army. I attended lectures as usual but had not seen Yvonne or the girls on campus or outside school. I felt relieved because my belongings stopped missing. One Wednesday night, I was lying on my bunk reading a novel when suddenly the light went off. I thought it was a power interruption. As I was blindly reaching for my torch, a heavy hand jerked me up from my bunk and covered my mouth. I could not shout or see the person's face because it was dark, but I knew there were 3 men because I heard their footsteps and one of them locking the hostel door. I was blindfolded and passed out after a hit on my neck. Waking up, the blindfold was still on, but I realized I was in an apartment with the light on. I heard Priska's voice saying, "Go ahead, go ahead." I was wondering what was going on because my hands and feet were tied. I could smell Yvonne's perfume and knew she orchestrated the plan. I was afraid because I did not know what the plan was. I was lost in thought when a heavy slap threw me from the chair where I was tied. Luckily, the rope on my hands loosened. As a shocked girl, I quickly removed my blindfold, seeing a male stranger standing before me and Yvonne beside Priska. I fell on my face because I still had a rope on my legs. I grabbed the wooden chair I fell from and threw it at the male stranger while untying my legs. Priska grabbed my arm, but I gave her a blow she would never forget. Yvonne ran out, still remembering the beating she received from me. The male stranger held my arm firmly, but being raised by an army general, I knew a few tactics to humble a man. I won't spell them out here to prevent children from practicing them at home. I performed the tactics on the stranger while Priska watched in amazement. I dealt with the stranger and left without looking back. I reported them to the school authority, and they were suspended for some time. When my father got the message, he quickly transferred me to another school. My eldest brother, Raymond, reached out to me after many years. We had stopped talking when I confronted him about breaking the hearts of women who genuinely loved him because he felt he was handsome. When he introduced his white fiancée to the family, I bluntly asked him if he was ready to settle down or still playing games. This caused issues between them, but they eventually made up. Raymond could not beat me because, when he tried, it did not end well. I fought back, leaving him with bruises, though he dealt with me too. Raymond told me he had a friend who claimed to love me. The young man saw my picture at Raymond's house in the US. I had never been in love before because I was easily irritated, little thing turns me off. I was beautiful, elegant, intelligent, and had all it takes, but I did not give room for dating. I thought, even if I want to be in a relationship, not with a man who comes from my brother. They were definitely friends and, as they say, birds of a feather flock together. I did not want heartbreak. I ignored my brother for a while, but he kept pushing. I told myself that despite our differences, my brother would never want to hurt his only sister. I was already in my third year at university, so I decided to give love a chance. If it worked out, we would get married after my graduation. I allowed this young man, whose name was Philip, into my life. Philip was handsome, but I was still studying his character. I made a new friend in my current school named Rose. Rose was engaged to her fiancé and was waiting for marriage after graduation. We started talking like people who had something in common. I told her about Philip, and she told me about Harry, her fiancé. I was not afraid this time because Rose was committed to her relationship, unlike Yvonne. Philip flew down to visit me after some months of talking. My parents called to congratulate me, and Rose spread the news that my fiancé was coming to plan our wedding. Fiancé. When did I tell you that we were engaged? Wisdom also called, not to congratulate me, but to advise me to be extra careful with this young man. Philip was just a friend until I made up my mind to date him, I told myself after Wisdom's call. Philip lodged in a hotel while he visited me at school and returned in the evening. He looked rich, but that was not my concern. Philip was the kind of man girls could not take their eyes off. The day he came to our school, he caused commotion as all the girls tried to be noticed. Philip had this American accent that would make you swoon when he speaks. He brought some provisions for me, gave me some cash, and later we went to an expensive eatery. I received honor from both my fellow students and strangers because of Philip. Even people I did not know existed in the school came out to present themselves because they saw a big fish. All these happenings made me, for the first time, nurture pride. I walked with my shoulders high and talked like a queen. I was about to fall in love when I got the shock of my life. What happened? After some weeks of visiting, Philip told me he would be leaving the next day. He bought an expensive phone for me, changed my furniture, and practically made life comfortable for me. My room screamed luxury, no one could believe it was a student's room. He changed my room key as well. He traveled back the next day. I missed him because, while he was around, I stopped cooking as we always ate out and brought back takeaway goodies. People started asking me about him, but I ignored them. 3 days after Philip left, we were still communicating. 2 people were coming for my hand in marriage, but I brushed them off because I was still thinking if it would work out with Philip. I had a stomach ache that afternoon and could not stay until the end of the lecture. Usually, I communicated with Philip about my every move, but I did not tell him about my stomach issues. Instead of coming back by 3 p.m., I returned by 12 p.m. I smelled Philip's cologne but thought my imagination was playing tricks on me. I unlocked my door, and there was Philip making out with Rose on my mattress. I was dumbfounded. They did not see me. I quietly locked the door and left. I took pictures of them and sent them to Raymond and Wisdom. I never spoke to Rose and Philip again. I cried all night, not because of Philip and Rose, but because the whole lodge heard about it. I then realized that Rose was never engaged, and there was no Harry in the picture. Rose left the school before the final exam out of shame. Raymond apologized to me. My parents never said anything about it. I decided to visit home during the holiday, contemplating how I would face my cousins who had heard about Philip. I didn't have any friends and refused to make new ones. One morning, after praying, I was sitting on my bed when I heard a bird chirping at my window. I went closer, but surprisingly, it did not fly away. I tried scaring it away, but it stayed. I stretched out my hand, and it perched on my arm. I felt loved again. I found comfort again. I named it Eva immediately. Eva was so beautiful that after praying in the morning, I would pamper her, feed her, and sing for her. I bought a cage for Eva. Every morning after praying, I would check up on Eva, clean her cage, change her food, and add water. Then I would prepare for lectures. After school, I would check on her, then look for something to eat, shower, and rest. This continued until I graduated. On my graduation day, I planned to take pictures with Eva alone, take my certificate, and go home. I was not expecting any family members to come, but they surprised me. They came and celebrated with me. Philip also came, but I did not let him come 5 inches close to me. I wondered how he shamefully appeared again. I heard that he got Rose pregnant. Anyway, that was not my business. Rose had always wanted a handsome man to have a cute baby with. I went home with Eva, made a frame of her, and kept it in my room. I made a nice space for Eva in my room. I didn't care if others had dogs and cats as pets. Eva was my pet. She got so used to me that even when I opened the cage for her to go, she would fly back to me after some time. At some point, Eva reproduced, and I had many Evas. My family got used to Eva and started calling me Eva Mama or AM. Shalom.